And here we are, time now to dig into the stack of papers we have here this morning. And joining us, Dr. Kwame Asah-Asante, political scientist, director as well for the Center for European Studies at the University of Ghana. Doc, Wednesday is here again. I was waiting to see how you would respond.
Yes.
Anyway, it's a beautiful day. I hope you're well.
I'm very well, very well.
We bless the Lord. Let's start the conversation from two angles that I'd like to run by you. Debt exchange and what the TUC is saying. They are insistent that they don't want government to do this. They say, if you've created a mess, don't punish us for the mess that you have created. And there have been some attempts at engagement yesterday. A quorum wasn't met on government side, and so that engagement actually was stillborn. There's also the issue in Parliament of the budget for the National Cathedral being jettisoned, thrown away, rejected. I'm sure you followed that story and how indeed we've heard that the committee, interestingly, they usually don't vote on these matters, but they had to vote twice. And each time they rejected the 80 million Ghana cedis allotted for the National Cathedral. In recent times, we heard Mr. President say that, look, the National Cathedral will be a way of thanking God for having saved us from civil war. What do you make of it?
I will start with the debt exchange. All right. I supported the TUC because here you are. You know, salary levels in this country very low, and workers are really struggling. And then you come to the issue of pension when people have invested their money into bonds and government papers so as to take care of them when you are in pension and all that. And then you mismanage the economy to the extent that you now come to them saying that, look, the money you have put there, you can't have anything. 2023. You go home with nothing, and then you extend some to 5 years, 6 years. It doesn't make sense. It's what you lawyers call as what double jeopardy, isn't it? Yeah, it's a double pain. And why? And some of these things people would obviously talk about it. So I think the position by TUC I support, and it's the right position, and that's so that going forward, anybody given the power to manage the economy, you'll be very careful. They will not budge. And I support that. The issue about cathedral, I mean, it breaks my heart that it appears to me that we are very insensitive to the plight of everybody in this country. Here you are, we are struggling to live, to make ends meet. And there is a project that the president wants to, undertake to honor God. No qualms about that, fine. But the timing is wrong. Absolutely wrong. We need resources to manage a few things. And here you are. We are building cathedral. I am happy that Parliament has shown the way, all right, that they really protect the public purse. This morning I listened to your network, and then Mr. Haruna Idiso saying that he's accusing Parliament, which he's a member of, that they have not played their oversight role very well, that they have allowed borrowing to affect the economic fortunes of this country. And I'm happy with that sincerity on his part, all right? Because the what the parliamentarians have done with regard to the cathedral, the 80 million, I support that. It must be thrown away so that that money could be used for something else. What is even surprising was the fact that here you are, they called I think the chief directors and those who matter in the ministry to come and explain how they are going to use the money and what they are going to use it for, the various stages and all that. They could not answer. That is an indictment on all of them there, that you have a budget and you can't defend the budget. You don't know what goes into it. Very sorry. So I'm happy that they rejected it. Let notice be served that when people give you power, you are not on your own. That power is subject to limitation, and the limitation is coming from the people's representative. And I'm happy they are discharging their duties very well.
Maybe the final issue I want to, since we're talking about Parliament, the Subin MP in Chi Wachientri, actually, has also reiterated the stance of the members of parliament that, look, we want Ken Oforiatta gone. And in the strongest words possible. What triggered this? Apparently, some pushing and shoving is happening from the top, from the executive branch of government, pointing to the fact that, look, some of you you would be made to lose in your primaries, or we would find a way of making life difficult for you so you don't return to parliament. And yesterday, some of these MPs represented or led by the Subin MP were very unhappy, and they took on their own leadership, saying that they were fighting for the soul of the party and not for anything else. But should it come to this, I listened to Dr. Amwakoba speak to the subject, and he basically said that the president was approaching this like a mafia boss in a vindictive manner, and that this could spell doom for the party, especially going into election 2024. As a political watcher, what do you see in there? If these...
There are a number of perspectives here,
right,
and I will, explain them. One is that I have no pain or no tears to shed with the MPs who are now crying. Why am I saying that? All right, they have been suffering from indecision. In one breath, they want the minister out. In another, they want to listen to the president for the minister to finish all his business and then come in. When you take a decision and then you keep on moving backwards and forwards, this is the results. All right, nobody takes you seriously, and then people believe that you even have lost credibility. All right, and that is what is happening to them. For me, I don't take them seriously at all. I know, and from looking at the events, I want to believe sincerely that they don't mean what they say, and that it is just a political gimmick. It is not a real issue that they want the minister out or any minister out. No. On the other point,
but do you think they would just do this, Doc, just for as a mere show to pay lip service to the people? Because, mind you, some of those who are saying this, and they say the system is vindictive. So why would they stick their necks out, risk their necks, risk losing their seats over what? A show?
Yeah, but the issue is that if you were that serious, they would have carried the decision to its logical conclusion. One way was to join the minority to pass the votes of censure. But
Doc, the vote of censure would have, the buck stops with the president. He has to assent to it.
Yeah, I know. Article 82.5 is a limitation.
Right,
on the process. I agree. But if they have added their voice to get majority and the president finally decided not to do, they would have been saved from their constituency, from all the attacks and all that. Yeah, that they did their bit. But except that Article 82.5 was a limitation on them. All right. They did not do that last minute. They chicken out. So who are you blaming? So for me, I believe that on that score, they inflicted the pain to themselves, and then they must carry their own cross. The issue about the part of the issue is that they are unfair to the president too. You talk to the president said, give me time, let the gentleman finish his work in parliament and IMF negotiations. We are not done with the IMF thing, and then you are on the neck of the president. You are unfair. I mean, is that what the agreement you reach? I mean, for me, it's unfair treatment to the president. And that is why I'm not surprised that people also come at you like that. That, look, we reach an agreement. And then the public said, oh, no, you have even betrayed us. I said, no, I want to listen to our leader. And in no time, you turn around and you are on the neck of the president. That's unfair. And when you look at it, that is it. And then the third aspect of it is that they have no power to change any minister, all right? Not even parliament. You see the limitation, 82.5. So even if parliament, you get 2/3 majority, unless the president decides to change anybody, you cannot change. So all that they are saying that will change will force that. I want to call their bluff. That if they have that capacity, They have that power. They should do it for us to see. But I can tell you that they cannot do anything unless the president decides to change anybody. All right. But having said all that, I know as a student of democracy and political science, I know that there's a political cost to this. To the party, to the individual MPs. All right. The threat about they losing their seat and all that is one thing. Another one goes to the whole party in general. That yes, if you have ministers who are not performing and you still want to maintain them, well, they will not deliver. And at the end of the day, remember that you need results. You need your legacy to be there. You need your records to stand on and campaign. What is it that they are going to stand on to campaign if the ministers fail to perform? All right. And that is the lesson for them. I believe that it is about time they took time to reflect on these things and then do the needful to arrest the situation. Otherwise, the cost to them will be too much when it comes to 2024.
Well, let's get into the papers now. The Daily Graphic, not keeping government in check, like has been mentioned briefly. Blame Parliament, Haruna Idrisu admits, and the minority leader in Parliament, Haruna Idrisu, has said Parliament must accept some blame and responsibility for not keeping the executive arm of government in check in the performance of its functions, including excessive borrowing. He said it was the responsibility of Parliament to have checked the excessive borrowing by the government, asking, how did we get here? Parliament's role as the defender of the people's interest is lost, he said. He made the admission yesterday during a roundtable with the core leadership of Parliament on harnessing the dividends of democracy over the last 30 years, organized by the Ministry of Parliamentary Affairs. Democratic dividends refer to the benefits that a democratic system can provide for a society. Now, the discussion was on the theme, Parliament and the harnessing of democratic dividends, assignment. What for you, since we've started talking about it, what for you are the lessons we should pick from this discourse, and especially what the minority leader says? Are there any practical bits we can pick from here and adhere to prevent same from happening in future?
There are a lot we can learn from them. One is the fact that, and I like, as I've already alluded to, I like the honest admission on the part of minority leader that they did not do enough. And this has brought us where we are now. So I'm happy they have acknowledged their own faults and they admit to that. I have no problem. But going forward, I want them to walk the talk. The lesson here is that it's not only talking about it, but doing something about it. Because one of the rules of Parliament is that you are a representation of the people. You represent the interest, the opinion, the aspiration of the people. All right, you speak their language. You cry for them. You talk on their behalf. Remember, the larger society, they are vulnerable, they are poor, they are needy people. You are the mouthpiece of those people. So when you leave them down, you let them down, then there's a problem. There's a problem. So they need to walk their talk and remember that if they don't play their oversight responsibility role, which is another function of Parliament, effectively, at the end of the day, they are going to cause pain to people unnecessarily. Look at the borrowing that they have allowed to go on. Now today, we are here, everybody suffering. Some of them are suffering the more because people come to them as leaders of their society and all that. They are feeling the pinch. So I believe that they must be careful about their role and then perform them very well. Once they do that, all of us will come home and smile. But if you decide to pay lip service to all these things, the effect will be albatross around the neck of everybody. Look at how we started having economic problems and all that. The majority, everybody is talking, is trying to find a way out of the problem and want to help our country. All right. But if you have done your bit and done it very well, I am sure that you'll be able to ameliorate some of these problems, and then everybody will come home in peace. I think going forward, they have to look at these things critically and then act as reps of the people.
Let's get into some other stories quickly. On page 20, kidnappers of Canadian girls jailed 40 years. And it took 3 years, but justice was finally served yesterday when the 4 young men accused of kidnapping 2 Canadian girls in an uncompleted building in Kumasi were found guilty and sentenced to 10 years imprisonment each. It was quite a dramatic scene at the Criminal Division of the High Court in Accra when, in a show of remorse by the convicts, one of them went down on his knees to apologize to the families of the victims. The ruling was also given in an atmosphere of remorse as the trial judge, Justice Lydia Osei-Mafo, and the defense counsel took turns to apologize to the victims on behalf of the state. You remember the story?
I do.
Surely.
I do.
But let me get into some other stories quickly so you can put all of them together. Release full budgetary allocation for Ministry of Defense. Speaker of Parliament urges Finance Ministry. And the Speaker of Parliament, Alban Sumana, Kingsford Bagbin, has urged the Ministry of Finance to release in full the budget estimate Parliament has approved for the Ministry of Defense to enable the security agencies to discharge their mandate. He said the practice of the Ministry of Finance not releasing all the budgetary allocation for the Defense Ministry did not augur well for the safety and security of the individual and community, as well as the stability of the country, which could not be toyed with. Today, I'm seeing quite some errors in the Daily Graphic. Augur is spelled wrongly and toyed with is spelled toiled with. Editor of the Daily Graphic, I'm not being mischievous, but we look up to you, so let's do better. Quick reflection on these 2 stories, Doc. So the first one, the kidnappers, and the second one, why this is interesting. You know, our president, and you can tell me what you think about his positioning, talking about the Burkinabe situation and the Wagner group, and some say that was a gaffe. But in respect of the turmoil in the sub-region, how do you feel on the back of this call by the Speaker of Parliament that we're starving our security ministries of the necessary resources?
Yeah, when you look at that story, I don't get it. Why is it that you don't want to release all the money that have been approved by Parliament to the ministry to be able to do their work effectively? It doesn't sit well with me, because once the money has been approved, it should go to the appropriate quarters for use, all right? More so when you are talking about security of the country, all right? We are surrounded by, terrorist groups and whatnot. So the little you can do is to arm the security with resources so that they can work. So I support the Speaker, his call, and that the money must be released in full, so that the officers will keep everybody safe and alive.
Just to add to that before you go to the other issue. So quoting him, he says, "It is sad when I really read and saw that approximately 81% of the budget on goods and services had not been released to the Ministry of Defense. That means only a paltry 19% has been released. How does the ministry work? The budget, though, is 3.742 billion Ghana cedis. So you can do the math. Over to you.
I think we don't have to waste time at all, because about 19% of the whole budget is given to them. What do you expect them to do? And yet you want results. That's unfair. And by their work, the nature of their work, they don't talk much in public to complain for everybody to know. So I'm happy that the Speaker himself has seen it and has voiced this thing out. I support that. They should release the money in no time, and then take it out. If they don't have the money, they should take the cathedral money and give it to the security people to protect us. The cathedral cannot protect anybody. There is nobody who is dying that we need the cathedral to protect. We need the people alive. So the security people must be given their money. Now to the Tadi girls issue, a very sad story that breaks my heart.
So no, this one is the Canadian.
Sorry, the Canadian,
girls, right.
The Canadian story. The Canadian story. We followed, and we realized that very, very sad. One is we're going to dent the image of this country, all right? And then you are talking about human beings involved who have come here to do their own business and all that, and people, abduct them and go and handle them and all that. Very, very, very unfair. I mean, inhuman. So I'm happy with the verdict. And then I'm also more happy about the position of the judge, apologizing to the families of those people and all that. That is a good thing. I commend the judge for that. And then the sentence also tells us that the state will not countenance such acts in the state at all. That anybody who crosses the line, we walk you through the full rigor of the law, and then whatever sanction that is given to you will be given to you. So I applaud the court. I also applaud the Canadian Embassy, who also, Canadian High Commission, who also played their part in this process to bring us here. I am happy, but Ghanaians should, be well alert so that whatever, anything we see, we inform the security people. It is part of our duty, a civic duty, of course, to give information to the security so that they can act on these things promptly.
I want you to reflect on some stories. Not this one, though, but I want to put it out there because it's also quite an enterprise. Network promotes Kwewu Summit at U.S. Africa Leaders Meeting. Pictured there, President Akufo-Addo and Idris Elba. Interestingly, I was watching a movie of his just about 2 days ago. A renowned actor, and they are expected to participate in the Kwewu Summit in January next year. Okay, so from there, two interesting stories. Will recapture power in 2024. Fifi Kwete, new General Secretary of the NDC. And on page 17, Minority Caucus congratulates NDC National Executive. The final bit to you from the Daily Graphic. I'd like to find out, since we've not spoken on it, what do you think of the new crop of leaders that the NDC has elected? From Esiedun Ketia, did you expect him to win? I think you shared your thoughts on that. To Fifi Kwete, to Joseph Yamin, to Basentale, to all of those, the retention of Dr. Hannah Bissell, to Pablo, who has been sworn in contrary to what the court said. I mean, what do you make of their new leadership? Can they go toe-to-toe with the MPP and recapture power in 2024?
Oh, yes. These are people who have lived all their life in politics. They are people who are experienced. They are people with strategy. And they are people who know what to do at each point in time. They are fearless, bold, and have what it takes to restore power. My advice to them is that, yes, much as they are poised for action, they should not fold their arms and believe in and deceive themselves into believing that when they don't act and act extremely well, they are going to break the eight, because no political party wants to stay in opposition. The basic function of every political party or aim is to win power and form the next government. NPP is telling you that they want to break the eight, so they need to put their house in order to be able to work and work effectively. If you look at the leaders they've paraded and who won the day for them, they are people who have seen it all. Take, for instance, the Esiedun Ketia. He has seen it all in terms of his role as an MP. He was an MP. He became a minister.
Yes.
And then at a point in time, he also worked with a party as a party person. All right. In terms of experience,
if you look at his experience, just to chip in, he spent about 30 years of his life working for the party.
Yes. He started off as a MP, Wenchi, when I was a reporter in Parliament. He was also, he became a deputy minister. And then he also went to the party to work as the CEO of the party for 17 years. He has seen it all. The experience, he has a lot. If you look at Fifi Kwete has done marvelously well for his party, all right? As a propaganda secretary, that's a party work. As an MP, that is for Parliament. And then also as a minister, all right? He is one of the, very bold, fearless, and very courageous gentlemen who have their party at heart at all times. Yamin, another fantastic guy who has also worked extremely well for his party, and then they are in for action. If you look at all of them, in terms of, the ability to capture power, I think they have what it takes. All right, because they have strategy. You can never win any election without meaningful strategy. They have, all right. If you look at messaging, just the competition, you saw the messages that were churned out, all right, message that resonate with the people at the grassroots within the party, all right, and they know how to excite people into action, all right. So that is there. Yamin also has those qualities and all that. Look at the women's group and the rest of them. Talking about Sami Jenfi, a fantastic young man with the courage, with the zeal, the tenacity and all that. So I believe they have a team, but it is not enough. to have the team, but you need to get the basics right, and then be prepared and be determined to win power. Otherwise, all the teams you can put in the mercies, assemble all of them. But if you don't have the strategy, the resource, the message, the manifesto, and the rest of them, I'm afraid you work in vain. And I'm sure they are not oblivious of this fact.
Let's take a quick look at the Daily Guide. And in there on page 6, we'll beat Mosquito's team. That's Nana B of the NPP. I guess time will tell. But in other stories, you look at page 5, just a quick look at some international stories I've been following. January 6th committee refers Trump to DOJ on 4 criminal charges. And it appears the Justice Department will have to look deeper into that. And it also appears Trump is going to be in hot waters. Interesting times, especially as in terms of polling, he goes toe-to-toe with DeSantis from his own party, but it appears his popularity is not as strong as he would want it. Germany returns looted treasures to Nigeria. I'm talking about the Benin bronzes. But in other stories, the two I want us to focus on, I'm open to criticism. The president, Akufo-Addo, says he is not in any way averse to criticism. Rather, he takes it in good faith since it helps him make informed decisions. He has therefore noted that persons who criticize him and his government only bring different perspectives to the decisions, actions, and inactions of his administration, which in the long run have helped to shape the decisions of government. My question for you, is that the feeling you get on the back of some of what the people have said? The e-levy, the National Cathedral, among others, to which the president has remained adamant. Then on page 6, 7 killed in fresh Boku clashes. And reports coming from Boku in the Upper East region indicate the renewed ethnic clashes between Kusasis and Mampusis have claimed the lives of 7 people. This follows the alleged killing of an aged man at Natinga on Saturday, December 17, 2022, which resulted in sporadic gunshots, leaving 5 persons dead. Quick reactions to these two stories. Hello, Doc. We may have lost Dr. Kwame Asasante. We'll try to get him back and get his reactions to those two important stories. The president saying he's open to criticism, and the other one having to do with, let me just cross-check, that one on page 6, having to do with the Boku situation. When we get him, we'll get into that. The final newspaper, locally produced safari tissues hit market to limit $100 million spent on imports. And Dr. John Kuma there with Dolores Frimpong Manso. I see Kwame Sefakai, among others, in that shot. And I've seen some posters, banners of it in town as well. Of course, that also being linked to our drive to be self-sufficient and not import so much. So government's agenda of revisiting and strengthening the country's import substitution policies has been given a big boost with the launch of locally produced safari tissues. Ghana spends some $100 million annually to import toilet rolls and tissue, with attendant negative impact on cedi depreciation, job creation, and taxes. Therefore, indigenous company Seabeige Ghana Limited, producers of safari tissues, commencement of production is timely and a big push for the Ghana Beyond Aid agenda. I support this. I just hope that, well, it's a private enterprise, so hopefully, though government is giving its support, hopefully this will stand the test of time and not just be another one that we talk about and sweep under the carpet. Galamsey fight. Lands Minister courts support of Asanteman Queen Mothers. 4 persons jailed for 10 years each for kidnapping Canadian girls. And Eurobond holders constitute committee to engage Ghana on debt restructuring. A quick look at that story. So international holders of Ghana's Eurobonds have constituted bondholder creditors committee in response to Ghana's announcement suspending certain categories of external debt pending an orderly restructuring of the affected obligations. It includes Eurobonds, commercial loans, and most bilateral debt. Ghana's Eurobonds Committee is representative of a diverse group of institutional investors, including mutual funds, asset managers, insurance firms, hedge funds, and family offices. The Chronicle newspaper this morning: minority vote against National Cathedral budget. Safari Tissues launched the delay unveiled as brand ambassador, and government courts Queen Mother's support to fight galamsey. Also, Bright SHS adjudged a best private school. The publisher now, Ghanaian publisher, Lands Minister woos Queen Mothers to fight galamsey. NMC chair queries Esiedun Ketia's PSB membership. And there's also Ghana Eurobond holders form committee to support debt restructuring. All of these stories that you have seen already. Daily Analyst all set for GJA dinner tonight. And there's also Get Fund releases money to contractors. The custodian, Ofoswampofo, salutes new NDC executives, and I salute him for that. For how he congratulated Esiedun Ketia, and he was very magnanimous, and that is the mark of good leadership. Parliament must take blame for economic crisis, that's according to Haruna Idrisu, and maize prices rise in northern Ghana. Neighbors pointed to that story is on page 3. Quick look. So prices of maize are increasing at a staggering rate this year, at the cost of about 600 cedis per bag in northern Ghana, where the commodity is largely produced in the country. Consumers are worried that prices may hit unbearable levels early next year if drastic measures are not taken to reverse the trend. The rising cost of the cereal has been attributed to the poor yields due to high cost of fertilizer and a long drought during the crop season as a result of the impact of climate change. I find this interesting, especially considering that the Agric Ministry has been telling us about food sufficiency and maize, and we have a lot of it and all that. What is happening when it comes to these maize price rises? And then, just to wrap with Dr. Kwame Asasante, Republic Press, NDC Delegates Congress don't dare commit suicide. APAC tells Anyidoho. And there's also High Court bounces Opuni again. Doc, since you're back, just to wrap the conversation, maize prices skyrocketing in northern Ghana, contrary to what we've been told by the Agric Ministry. And there's also those two stories. I'm open to criticism. The president says so. Do you get the feeling he is open to criticism? And 7 killed in fresh Boku clashes. 3 stories to play with.
Yeah, I'll start with the president one. He's open to criticisms. I don't believe that. Because some of these things, people have expressed concerns about some of his policies, programs, and all that. The president has been adamant. Take, for instance, the issue of even, e-levy. When they started the conversation, they wanted to put it at 1.75. People talk about it. It will not change. All right. We came to 1.5, and people said there's a need to change it. It will not work. The president didn't listen. And by extension, the government did not listen. The issue about the size of government, all right, we have said it time and again, that is too huge for a poor country such as Ghana, which is struggling to make ends meet. The president said we should wait for results. The president didn't listen. Look at the issue of ministers who are not performing. The president gives them excellent performance. And so when the president says he's open to criticisms, I don't take it with respect. I disagree with him vehemently.
Right.
Vehemently. Right. The issue about maize prices going up and all that, and it's contrary to the story that we received from the ministry. That disconnects. I think the ministry must fix that. Otherwise, it cuts a slur on their image, that you are telling us something which is not the case on the ground. All the time I've been listening to the minister with rapt attention. He tells us, oh, my wife told me this and all that. I ask myself, is it the wife who is doing all the survey at the ministry for us and all that? More often than not, the minister will come out with certain statements and you go to the field, it is to the contrary. Market women get angry with some of his comments and all that. I think that going forward, the ministry must look at these things and find a proper way of addressing it. And that if they don't have information, they should just keep quiet. If they have it, they share with us. And we want to be fed with information that is the situation on the ground. That I can say, because the public has the right to know about the goings on within their system. And the last bit, if you can remind me, what is
Boku,
it?
just briefly.
Boku. Boku, very, very unfortunate. We're still struggling to deal with the problem. I think that all of us must put our shoulders to the wheel and then help to deal with this problem. It's a worrying situation and it affects all of us. All right. We don't want any lives to be lost in any part of this country. Every life is important and we need to work at that.
Right.
So we will appeal to all those who are embroiled in that situation to soften their stand and give the state the opportunity to address this problem for all of us to breathe a sigh of relief. I believe that my people will be able to do that. I trust them and I respect them and I expect them to help us to deal with this problem once and for all.
Doc, Nagode, Akpe Ghana. Yeah, that's it. Thank you for joining us this morning. Dr. Kwame Asasante there, he's a political scientist, also director of the Center for European Studies at the University of Ghana. Well, up next, we have sports for you. It's been amazing in Argentina as they have celebrated. The crowds barely able to catch a glimpse of their superstars. Well, sports is up next as we bring you the latest in that terrain. Do stay.